Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk, and we're going to do a little replay review right here for Eric Glass and the clan there. We're both running our KPZ07RH, did a little coaching with him and have a few replays I thought I'd take a look at. Offered to do a little analysis for him. So right off the bat, we're going to take a look at his setup. So he's running 50 HE, 10 heat, and 20 AP. It's an okay loadout. I don't think you need that many HE on this tank. I would probably carry, I would take about 20 off the HE, put 10 on the heat and 10 on the AP, to be honest with you. You're never going to really run out of rounds in this tank. It has a whole bunch of rounds. The heat, or the HE is good on this tank, but I would not lean on it so hard as I think you did on this one, to be honest. We're running vents, rammer, and a GLD. I would absolutely use the vert stab if you wanted to help your gun accuracy rather than a GLD. This may have a lot to do with what you just have, so I'm not sure what's in your depot, but generally I wouldn't run a GLD on a medium tank like this. If you're running it as a tank destroyer, there's a slight argument for it, but really I think the GLD is one of the least useful of the equipment that's going to help your gun stats. So I'd chuck a vert stab on it and give that a shot. See how you like it. We can talk about other configurations because really there's quite a few you can run with in this tank. In fact, if you get your field mods done, it'd be nice to have a second setup with this tank. That's a vision setup. But we can talk about that later. All right, so that's what we got set up. We're going to go ahead. We're here on Pilsen. So we're going to talk about this as he goes. Like I said, I was in this. We were talking about playing the game, etc., but I didn't see anything about how he was running his tank. So let's go ahead and just sort of take a look, give a few critiques, see if we got any pointers for these guys. As always, if you're seeing something, type it down below in the comments, because if Eric can use it, that'd be really good. Especially since I will obviously miss things as we go. Try to cover as much as we can. So we're going to go over here. We discussed this. He said I would go to the 9-0 line. I agreed, so we're going to come on in here. We saw the G-SOAR. He pushes up into the bushes. I want to see what he's seeing here. I did tell him to be careful right there, all right? The problem with this position, tucking up to the left side right here, is you're no longer 15 meters from these bushes, right? So if he shoots at one of these dudes, and you can see the G-SOAR is well inside down here on the map, inside the spotting rings, then those bushes are not helping you against the spotting on this guy. This dude then spots you, you're lit, and all these dudes down here shoot you. I'm over to the right for that very reason. When I shoot, I'm going to get the 15 off these bushes, and ideally, now you also have to be careful where I am because there is an opening right through here, right? So this position is not perfect. Maybe just slightly off to the right potentially would be a better spot even for me. But be careful with things like that. You go, oh, I'm not going to get spotted by anybody on the 0 line. Well, you're not, but this 10067 may very well see you because he's well inside, and if his spotting point, you lose the benefit of those bushes when you shoot. So have a thought about that. We did discuss that while we were doing. I said, boy, be careful, don't shoot right there. All right, we have a 432 ahead of us. We are pretty decent little sniper tanks. We have a really fast rate of fire. It's almost, the KPZ is almost like having an autoloader that never has to reload with a pretty low, I want to say 230, 220. That's the HE round, which is good. 200, even worse. All right, so 200 alpha, very small alpha, very low. All right, the G-SOAR tucks up behind us, and I said, hey, let's drop down into this little spot. We don't want to, again, same thing. We don't want him to get in here and spot us, so I'm trying to find a way to get a shot on this guy. So we're hiding for the moment. I'll come up here, see if I can get a shot on him. I actually bounced that shot, which is hilarious. Eric's going to come up here, follow me up. Okay, dude's running away. He comes out through here. And we get 35. See, this is HE, fellas. I don't know. That shot just plain old missed or hit the tracks. There's a 42. All right. So HE, guys, it's a great tool if you use it right. It can be an absolute pain in the arse if things like this happen. The G-SOAR doesn't have fantastic armor, but it's okay. And we've auto-aimed, but notice the auto-aim is shooting right into its upper plate, which is about as good as the armor gets, and it's angled a little bit here. And we ended up with a 35 on the side, so who knows where that went. Probably into a wheel or something like that. So we got 77 hit points of damage. When if we'd have been firing the AP, we'd be around 400 hit points of damage. And by the way, this guy'd be dead because he's only at 23 right now, right? HE guys, if you're going to use it, you got to be really careful. And in a quick fight like that, you might go, well, dude, you need to aim. Like, yeah, but we're in a moving fight, and he's using auto aim to try to make sure he gets his shot off, all that good stuff. A completely valid tactic, but negates the HE aiming piece of all that, right? And then you go, well, his armor's not good, so I got unlucky. All right, yeah, but let's say you actually shot the AP or the heat round. The heat round's got its own problems. You know, if it hits tracks or the wheel or things like that. The AP round, but I really think even if one of those two had penetrated, if there were 8 AP shots, that guy's dead. Does that make sense? Beating that dead horse just a little bit. But I think it's an important thing. And again, if you have a good situation for the HE, because this thing's HE round is pretty awesome for as little of a gun as it is, by all means go ahead. But be careful about tanks where, you know, somebody tells you, say another CC or a really good player, and they go, oh, it's got a great HE round. You need to make sure you use the HE round. Like, okay, yeah, noted, but there's a lot of nuances to that maybe they're not talking about, or they don't have time to talk about, or maybe are assumed when they say things like that. So I'm moving up. I believe I'm using my vision setup, by the way. I have CVS, optics, and something else. It's not the LNES. We're taking shots on this guy. So I'm telling him right now, this is the strength of 2. And he switched over to AP finally there. I'm talking to him like, come on, let's 2 of us DPM this dude. Missed right there. Okay. That's one of the problems with being behind somebody, is sometimes they're going to get in your way right there. Okay, switches to HE, nicely done. Oh, it doesn't quite get it, so maybe just a little hasty on that, but he was going around the corner, so not that bothered by taking a shot like that. We were discussing this when it showed up, like, hey, this is definitely an HE situation here. So we're in pretty good pretty good shot. We're in pretty good shape. We take a look at this. They've got most of their heavies down there in the factories. We have one more or less this flank. We need to clean it up. There's a couple tanks here. We'd like to avoid getting slapped by the RHM. Our 14.5 is there with the G-SOR tank, and we have a couple guys backing us up over here. So it would be nice to clear out this flank and then swing the flank on the other team. The G-SOR's fallen back, so I see that and I push. I'm like, come on, let's go. And there's the UDES. And there's the... I don't even know how he did that. He got hit by the 16. All right, so I think right here, what I'd have done instead of sitting back here, Eric, is come up to the left and get behind me. The reason I did it that way is I knew there was a guy back there, right? So I don't want to sit here. I want to get over here where I can guard myself from that. And I'm able to come around there and take out the RHM. And unfortunately now you're sort of out in the open. Like, oh, don't hit me, don't hit me. And he missed, thank goodness. I'll take that opportunity to get in there, and I'm actually going to bounce. And you do a nice job here. Oh! Third person shooting, not a huge fan of it. I think really if you'd have just taken a second to zoom in, you probably would have got a much better shot right there. That is technique right there. I know there's several guys that I watch replays on who are really good at the third person shooting. That may be you, it may not be. I think what I'm seeing just is a vast generalization off of one replay, and the times we played together, just kind of keep an eye on you. I think you're taking some hasty shots on occasion. Maybe just a little bit more care. The already misses. That's nice. Like, I'm not even sure what happened there, to be honest. Good on you. You got that shot off. That blows my mind. Third person, as I'm sitting there talking about it. I remember watching you when we were playing. I'm like, oh, don't push that G-SOR with that few hit points. And there you go. And that was a G-SOR tank, so it wasn't the auto loader, no. I'm having a tough time taking this guy out. I'm really kind of screwing this up. There we go. Finally get him dead. Now this is looking really good, fellas. We've won a flank. This is not a reason to go back. Anyway, it's an encounter, so there is no back. We're going to flow to the cap, to the encounter cap. We've done a decent little job here. Not sure. Oh, yeah, that's right. Eric was a little wiser than I was in terms of the artillery. I was discussing. I'm like, I hope that artillery doesn't shoot. And thank goodness it missed me, because these tanks will get shredded by artillery. So Eric was a little wiser. He didn't take any damage. I think I got splashed for a little bit. So now we're going to slide in behind these dudes. We're pretty sure that their artillery is up top, and I think all three of what they have left are in there. Boom. Okay, so the 14-5 just got nuked. Okay. I don't remember if we discussed. I don't think I said go get artillery or anything like that. When I'm in a situation like this, and there are hit points to be had, I generally don't worry about the artillery. I'm not a let's go hunt artillery guy at this point in the game, because there's still heavies down in there. Now, I don't think they're going to necessarily win, but there's more hit points with the heavies, the guys that are alive. If it's easy to get to the artillery, or you're already isolated and that's the closest thing to go shoot, then I don't have a huge problem with it. But I also figured that more than likely that artillery was going to get spotted fairly quickly, and we all know where he was anyway. I'm going to flow to the hit points, man, just as a general thought on gameplay. That's where the experience is. That's where the credits are. That's where the danger to the game being won or lost is. Let's say we only had a few tanks and we had a bunch of near deads. That then increases the value of going after the artillery a little bit. But in this case, in this game, I don't see a whole lot of value in being the person going after the artillery. Now we are going to get... Now we got a miss. That's a bummer. Somebody else shot him. Yeah, okay. So we didn't get anything out of that. And down they go. And I don't know if I got any more shots in there anyway going after the heavies, but as a general rule, I wouldn't flow. In this particular case, I would not flow to the artillery. I'd flow to the dudes that are in the factory right there. That's not to say there aren't cases where flowing to the artillery isn't a better idea, but in this case, I feel like my primary move as I'm flowing is to the most dangerous thing. And to me, in this particular match, the most dangerous thing was the heavies. Okay, not that I thought in this case they were going to make any kind of comeback, but if they were going to, it was going to be from those guys, not from the singular artillery up in the corner. There's a lot to that, but again, as a generalization, that's really for everybody as you're thinking about it. I see it a lot. You get a 100% hit point tank. That's not the case here, but you get a 100% hit point tank that wanders off to kill a couple arty, and meanwhile the game is in the balance, and if that tank had flowed to the important spot where the rest of the tanks were fighting and backed up his team, it's an easy win. Who gives a shit? They already might get in there and splash a couple, but we needed the hit points at the important point of impact, and they wander off and go after the arty. And that's just a complete misprioritization of where the threat is. So at the end of the day, it's what's the biggest threat? Where do I need to flow to next? That's what I'm thinking about. I don't just go, oh, arty's available to go after we won the flank. Let me go kill the arty because it's really important to kill arty. No. It's what's the most important threat, flow to that. All right, cool. So there you go. I've got some more of his replays. We'll go over these over the next few weeks and talk about it. But I just wanted to cover him. He got 940 damage and 14 assists. Talking to him later, last week or so after we did all this, said he's starting to, feeling like he's doing a little bit better in medium. So that's awesome. That's the whole point of replay analysis and coaching and doing all that kind of thing, is just maybe get you think about different things than maybe you've been doing in the game. I learned a lot from it. I learned from watching your replays. I learned from the good replays from the great players that send them in. I sometimes relearn stuff that I learned. Just understand it's always a process. It's always a journey, which is dumb, but it's true. You can learn something and then 2 months later have forgotten it and relearn it. You try not to do it that way, but that's just part of the process. There's a lot to this game. There's a lot of things to know, a lot of tactics and techniques to use. Some are better than others in general. There's multiple classes. There's a lot to this game. A fairly simple mouse point and click and shoot game with a lot of things going on in there, and there's always something to learn. All right, that is all I've got.